this guy, Matt, just placed fourth in a men's physique contest. And he asked one of the judges why he didn't place higher, and the judge told him that he thought it was because his waist was too wide, that in fact his obliques were too big, the external oblique muscle here on the sides, and that he needed to let that muscle atrophy to get smaller. The first thing I'm going to do in looking at this thing is evaluate whether or not that is a real problem or not. And if it is a real problem, what might be the strategy to fix it? Chris Cormier here is giving some advice on what he thinks the fix would be.
Can you bring this in? Like,
This is as tight as I can right there. Okay. And see, like I said, when I bring these sides in, I can't get these as deep as I want them.
Nice six-pack, huh? But you can see that his external obliques, in my view, are not oversized. I mean, the fact that you can see them, clearly that's a fact, but they're not huge. So I would not, right off the bat, I would not say that his obliques are too big. What I might say is that he doesn't have enough development on the sides, above this little bump right here, or that he doesn't know how to control it, doesn't know how to contract it. Let's see what Chris says.
What's happening, what I see is like, it's like the muscle is way more developed than your abs, as far as like a whole.
Okay, now, what Chris said right there sounded like what he's saying is that the obliques are way more developed than the abs. But I think what he meant to say was that the abdominal muscles are actually more developed than the sides. So I think, let's see where he's going with that, but I think that's what he means there.
As far as like a whole. So I would think you need to do more twist stuff, but more like, even if it's not with weights, just the movement here. Okay. It's like that.
And you mean down, right?
Yeah, and downward.
Not across.
Right, not across. Down. Yeah.
All right.
By suggesting a twisting motion, he's suggesting activating the external obliques. So clearly that's what he's going to try to have Matt do is work on somehow either developing or learning how to control the contraction of the external obliques so that he can contract it all at the same time.
There you go. Back up. There you go. Speed it up a little bit. That's the movement though. Slow down. So we want to try to concentrate on these outsides, these obliques and everything, serratus.
Okay, now what's happening right here is there's actually two movements taking place. There's a rotation of the trunk, and then there's a forward dip. And the rotation of the trunk is created by a muscle called the transverse abdominis, which is a muscle that runs horizontal to the rectus abdominis, which is the six-pack. So because it's behind all these layers, it's also behind the external oblique. Because it's such a deep underlying muscle, you can never see that muscle no matter how lean you were. You could have no skin, no fat whatsoever, and all you would see is the rectus abdominis and the external obliques on the sides, and the rectus and the transverse abdominis. So turning to the side like this, even with resistance and really working at developing that muscle, would have a couple of different benefits. One being a functional one that mimics that movement. So if you were martial artist, if you were a soccer player, somebody who rotates the trunk either with a kick or with your torso, it would help you in that activity. But it also is involved in your breathing. It's also involved in your ability to contract and control what's happening with your abdominal. So even though you don't see it, you do see the muscles that are on the outside of it if you're able to control the contraction of it. So the first half of this is transverse, and then he actually has him dip down. So when he dips down, he's actually contracting the external oblique.
That's the movement though.
So you can actually see that contraction.
So we want to try to concentrate on it.
Now he's not opposing this from any resistance. In other words, he's not pulling against the cable that's pulling him back. And that's okay, because if he was, he probably wouldn't be able to get into that contraction quite as easily. And I think what Chris is trying to do here is he's trying to teach him how to control the contraction.
Blow it out. Just trying to get him to engage with that more so, because it seems like his muscle that's just waiting to get cut up.
Now see, the terminology may not be quite right on. He said waiting for that muscle to get cut up. Clearly he's so cut up you can actually see the attachment of the muscle. So he's lean. Now could he be any leaner? Sure. I've seen people that are just sick lean, I'm sure you guys have too. And he's not quite sick lean just yet, but he's lean enough where you can see the fibers of the muscle. And I think what's missing here mostly for him is his ability to know what certain contractions feel like and his ability to control his waistline while he's on stage.
Keep going, left and right. Go ahead, speed it up a little bit. Just keep engaging, just like that. If you do this continuously, and you can bet on it that you're going to get some major lines and development even through that part where you think it's just solid or whatever.
In my opinion, his obliques are developed enough. The external oblique is a sheet of muscle. It's not like a quadricep or a bicep, so it won't grow much. It doesn't have much capacity for thickness and size. But what it does have is it has an awful lot of capacity for striation and for lines and for definition. So if you combine that with a good, solid diet, and when he stands like this, he'll have all kinds of lines, and that will create the illusion of a narrower waist. I firmly believe. Plus, those muscles will actually pull everything in a little bit. Even though he's not actually making his hips any narrower, it creates the illusion there's lines and there's a tucking in.
See, it's even coming out now. It's gonna start coming. I'll give you like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and I guarantee you that's gonna be some lines in there.
2 weeks. That might be optimistic. You know, we know that muscles don't grow very much. Now, if it's just a matter of awareness, if it's just a matter of learning what that muscle can do, because it's mostly already there, fine, 2 weeks, right? Awareness doesn't take that long. But development takes a little bit longer than 2 weeks, in my opinion.
2 weeks, and I guarantee you that's going to be some lines in there.
Look at that, he's got some great, look at that, boom. He's got some great leanness.
Keep doing it. You have the genetics to build anything you want in this physique.
He's got good genetics, Chris just said that, I agree with that.
So you shouldn't have no problem developing that.
So you can see, this is the serratus up here, and the external oblique ties right into the serratus. All of this on the side is all external oblique. When I was growing up, we used to call those intercostals, but we know they're not intercostals now because intercostals are in between the ribs. That's all external oblique. You look at an anatomy chart, you'll see it's all external oblique.
Hold down. Now squeeze it down. No, squeeze it down. Check it out. Look at it.
So maybe in his case, it is a matter of just lack of awareness, and Chris is being very helpful there and helping him find what that feels like. Now, listen, you know, part of contest preparation is, in fact, flexing, because flexing is something that is very different than doing an exercise. When you're doing abdominal crunches, sometimes the mere fact that you have some opposing resistance prevents you from being able to flex that muscle as hard as you would be able to if you didn't have that resistance. So flexing in itself, for those of you that have tried it, know that it'll actually cramp you up in the beginning. Cramp you up. I'm helping a guy get ready for a contest right now, and we've been training like maniacs in the gym, and he hasn't cramped up in the gym. Practicing his posing, he cramps up. Why? It's a completely different kind of workout. So this is the kind of activity that has to happen. You know, one of the things that is critically important to a competitor is the ability to control the muscles of your body and to have them look the way you know they can look, want them to look, practice them looking at home in front of the mirror. You know, that is something that's very, very hard to learn. It's harder for some than it is for others. Some people are a little bit more connected to their body than others. In either case, whether you're one of the lucky ones who can connect to their body a little better than you, it takes a lot of practice. It takes hours and hours and hours in front of the mirror. Now that is to say that you have to have the muscle to begin with, right? In other words, if you can't flex what you don't have. So if in Matt's case, if Matt is trying to get his ability to contract his external obliques at the same time as he's contracting his abdominal muscles, the first thing that has to happen is he has to have adequate development there. So that's why the first strategy that I would have him do is to do these weighted side bends with a cable. So once that muscle is developed, then it's a matter of you getting in front of that mirror and practicing what it feels like to have every muscle in your whole body contracted at the exact same time, and when it comes to the abs, in the way that they look best. And finding the one that looks best in that standing relaxed, quote unquote, standing relaxed position is kind of tricky. You really, really do need to experiment quite a bit before you actually find that, but it is a matter of muscle awareness.